My name is Wilson Anatory, a teacher for biology, and today I'm going to teach a topic, classification of living things, particularly Kingdom Animalia for Form 4 class. Kingdom Animalia is one of the 5 kingdoms in ordinary level secondary school, and you learned 4 kingdoms in the past classes, Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3. For Form 4, we cover Kingdom Animalia, and today I'm here for Kingdom Animalia. Objective of this topic is to understand or to explain general and distinctive features of the Kingdom Animalia, to mention the phyla and the classes of the Kingdom Animalia, to classify organisms in their respective kingdoms, phyla, and the class. After the end of this lesson, you must be able to understand all this. What are the members of Kingdom Animalia? As you remember from other kingdoms, you learned the Plantae, you learned the Fungi, you learned the Monera, Protoctista, but today is Animalia. What are the members of Animalia Kingdom? And this comes from the term animals. All the animals we interact with, see them from on the earth's surface, belongs to this one. You can see this picture showing different kinds of animals. Here they are very familiar: fish, dolphin, frog, lizards, birds. All of these are members of the Kingdom Animalia. And we have a lot. There are around 9 to 10 million animals on this earth's surface, but we know only a few of them. About 800,000 species are identified by scientists. So probably we have a lot of animals which are unknown, are not identified until now. It includes mammals, those animals which give suckling to their young babies, fish, birds, insects. All are members of the Kingdom Animalia. What are the features, the characteristics which will tell us that this organism is belonging to Animalia Kingdom? These are the features of the Kingdom Animalia. Firstly, they are eukaryotic multicellular organisms. They are eukaryotic. They have true cells. As you remember in cell structure and organization of Form 2, eukaryotic means true cells. They have a cell with a true nucleus. They are heterotrophic in mode of nutrition. That means they feed on other organisms. They depend on other organisms to obtain their food. They can't manufacture their own food, as we learned in the Kingdom Plantae. They are capable of locomotion at some points in life. Locomotion is the feature of animals. They can move from one place to another. Sometimes they can move throughout their life, or in some stages of their life cycle, they can have locomotion. They ingest and digest food to get nutrients. They do ingest and digest food because they have digestive system. This group is the one which have digestive system, have enzymes for digesting. Therefore, they take food from other organisms, ingest and digest. They lack cell wall in their cell structure. If you remember in Form 2 topic, cell structure and organization, these organisms, they will have no cell wall in their cell structure. Also, they possess nervous system. This is a very big development in this Kingdom Animalia, and very unique compared to other kingdoms. They have nervous system, a system which enables them to detect any changes in the environment and adjust accordingly. There may be change in temperature, maybe there are some pains in the body, or any other stimulus from inside the body or outside the body. They are able to respond because of this nervous system, which is made of the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves which is spreading throughout the body. Again, growth in these organisms, Kingdom Animalia, it occurs proportionally in all body cells. This is different from other organisms like Plantae. The plants, they grow in some parts. They are not growing proportionally. Growth occurs only in meristems, meristematic cells. But for animals, if you are growing this hand is growing, the head is growing, you can't be adult, but you are fit of a baby. No, they grow all proportionally. Again, they store carbohydrate in the form of glycogen. This is the unique feature that They store their carbohydrates in the form of glycogen, or we call animal starch. Animals are made up of many organ systems. We have organ systems that aid in performing specific functions that are necessary for survival of the organism. We have different organs: the heart, the brain, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver. All are the kidneys which help us to survive because they perform very vital functions in our body. Most animals reproduce sexually. They produce sexually. We have males and the females, and reproduction occurs by fusion of the haploid cells like the eggs and the sperms. This is the feature for animals. It is sexual, not asexual. You need to have two partners, a male and a female, have to mate and reproduce. They have glands forming endocrine system, yes, in our bodies, because we human beings, we are also belonging to the Kingdom Animalia. We have the glands like sweat glands, the oil glands, and other glands, which help in control and the coordination of the body system. This is in connection to the one of the points we mentioned, that we have nervous system for responding stimulus or changes in the body. This function is also performed by the glands, which produce hormones and other chemicals in the body. Have a skeletal system for support and the protection of the body. Skeletal system, the system of bones, which makes our shape, because we find bones, the skull and the bones spreading all over the body, which makes us to be strong, because they are supporting our body. And the major phyla of the Kingdom Animalia. What are the major phyla of the Kingdom Animalia? Kingdom Animalia have these 5 major phyla. Phylum Platyhelminthes, Phylum Aschelminthes, Phylum Annelida, Phylum Arthropod, and the Phylum Rhodata. These are the 5 phyla under the Kingdom Animalia. And for today, we are going to cover 3 of these: Phylum Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, and Annelida. And the next class, we will cover these 2. And one thing you must know is these first three phyla, they compose of worms. We all familiar on worms. We are all familiar about worms. The worms, some of these are parasites, meaning that they are living inside or outside of the body, but some are not parasites. Particularly, the two of these, Platyhelminthes and Aschelminthes, they are parasites. We have them, we live with them. They are living in our bodies, sometimes in the body of other animals, not necessarily to be human beings. You can find them in cattle, in cow, in sheep. We'll find them, and we're going to learn what organisms are belonging here, what organism belongs here, what organism belongs here. Let's go for these 3, starting with Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes, this is commonly known as flatworms. The worms under this one, they are all with the flat bodies. Their bodies is flat, it's flattened. Their distinctive characteristics, which will enable you to understand that this organism belongs to Platyhelminthes. They are ribbon-shaped animals with the soft bodies. They are ribbon-shaped. Sometimes you can say tape-shaped. You understand the term tape measure. They look like a tape measure, the one which you use for measuring different lengths. And we are going to see the picture. After this slide, you will see the picture of the organism which bear this kind of body. They are triploblastic. Triploblastic means a body of 3 layers, meaning outer layer, which called epidermis, middle layer called mesoderm, and the inner layer, which called endodermis. That means if you dissect the body of that organism, if you dissect them, you will see the outer layer, the middle layer, and the inner layer. The outer layer we call epidermis, and the middle layer is mesoderm, and the inner layer we call endodermis. And these together we call them triploblastic. Three layers. Again, They are coelomate. They are coelomate. Coelomate comes from coelomate. Coelomate. A coelomate means like body fluid, or you can say blood. In case of animals like us, it is blood or body fluid. A coelomate means they don't have this body fluid. They look like being dry. Their body is quite dry because they are very, very, very flattened like a tape measure. So they don't have a soft body. They look like being dry, have no body fluid. In other way, you can say they have no circulatory system. They use flame cells for excretion and osmoregulation. They have this kind of special cells, no kidneys. They work like a kidney for excretion and osmoregulation. Habitat, where do we find these organisms? Habitat. They are found in both marine and freshwater habitats. Some are mostly endoparasites found in animals, example Taenia and Fasciole. So most of these platyhelminthes are found in marine and freshwater, but sometimes we can find them in animals, including us human beings. Now let us discuss the classes or subcategories under the phylum Platyhelminthes. We have three classes here: class Tubularia, class Trematoda, and the class Cestoda. Class Tubularia, class Trematoda, and the class Cestoda. And we are going to see what is in Tubularia, what is in Trematoda, as well as Cestoda. Tubularia, class Tubularia. These are the distinctive characteristics of the class Tubularia. They have delicate, softy bodies. They are very delicate, softy bodies, and their body is covered with cilia for locomotion. As you know, cilia is one of the locomotor structure in some animals. And these ones have cilia for their locomotion. They have sense organs, but they are present only in the adult stage. When they are still young, don't have these sense organs. Sense organs, we mean these eyes, the skin, and others which can enable in detecting the changes or stimulus. Suckers are rarely present. Suckers, the structures that enables it for sucking. When infect the host, it needs to suck the blood or suck the nutrients. It have the special structures which works like a mouth for suckling that we call suckers. Also, they have sense organs present in adults. Group member is Planaria. Planaria, we find them as free-living worms found in aquatic environment. You'll see the picture of Planaria here. This is Planaria found in class Tubularia. It is here, and you can see it well in this picture. This is internal arrangement of the organ systems of this organism, and this is commonly found in aquatic environment. Sometimes they come on the skin of a human being. If you stay in the water, aquatic environment, especially for those who are going to plant rice, it is very common in that particular kind of environment where they can attach on your leg and they start sucking blood because they are parasites. But this one is ectoparasite, and they are freely living in aquatic environment. Another class is Trematoda. Trematoda have the following features. They are all parasites, either endoparasites or ectoparasite. Endoparasite means living inside the body of another organism, and the ectoparasite lives on the body of a living organism. So this one, they can be endoparasite, or ectoparasites. They are leaf-like in shape. Their shape looks like a leaf, and you will see the picture after this slide. It is, you can confuse this structure with a structure of a leaf. They have ventral suckers and suckers on head for attachment to the host. This suckers is for attachment and for absorption or for suckling the nutrients from the host. There are ventral suckers and suckers on their head, which enables them to attach and at the same time for sucking the blood or nutrients from the host. Again, they have thick cuticle for protection. Thick cuticle for protection. You know, these organisms live in the body of other organisms. Living inside the gut of another organism, let's say a certain organism living in your digestive system. Remember, you still have digestive enzymes which works in digesting the food and all materials which found in the gut. So probably these organisms which are parasites and living in the gut, they can be digested as part of food. But to prevent that digestion, they bear thick cuticle. This is a hard covering, on their body, which protect them from being digested or being harmed by the toxins or chemicals produced by the host. They have sense organs in larval stage. When they are still larval, they can have sense organs. Example is Fassola species. This is the generic name, but the common name we call liver fluke. This is common in cattle like sheep and cow. And these are the different pictures of liver flukes which belong to the class Trematoda. This one. And the body have oval, have oral sucker, have ventral sucker. All of this is for attachment to the host and for sucking the required materials from the host. Again, you have this habitat. Where do we find these Trematoda or Fassola or liver fluke? Their habitat is they live in the liver of cow or sheep. Maybe this is why we call them liver fluke, because we found them in liver of cow or sheep. And this cow or sheep, they obtain it from the grasses. As you see from the picture here, a cow is obtaining food. Around here, there is aquatic environment, and outside, these organisms, the youngs, when they are still young, they live in the body of snail called Limnac species. This is a snail found in water swamps, and this kind of snail, they carry the eggs of liver flukes, and these eggs will be coming out from this snail, attached to the grasses, and then they can be taken by a cattle or sheep or cow when obtaining food, and then will migrate to their liver. Once reaching their liver, the eggs, because you have a male and a female egg, then they will fuse to obtain a complete organism, liver fluke. It will grow and they will start producing other eggs, which will come out with feces of these organisms and repeat the same cycle, will enter into the snail. And then later, after growth and leaving the snail, we attach to the grasses to repeat the cycle again. The distinctive features of Cestoda. This is another class, I think the last one among the 3 classes and phylum Paterominthes. Distinctive features, they are endoparasite, lives inside host. These ones are endoparasite, they live inside the host. They have an elongated body divided into proglottid, which can break off. These proglottids are segments, something like segments, and sometimes this segment, it is long, as you know the structure of the worm, it is long. In some stages, these proglottid, they can break off to come out as eggs. We shall discuss this later, but mind that they have elongated body divided into segments or proglottid, and they can break off. They possess suckers and hooks on head for attachment to the host. Yes, this is common for most parasites. They possess suckers, and the suckers we said from the previous slides, we said they help for attachment and for absorption of food materials. And also they have the suckers and the hooks on head for attachment to the host. Again, they have thick cuticle that covers its body. As we have said from the previous slide, these organisms are living in our gut, in the alimentary canal of certain organisms. Therefore, they need protection because they can be digested or harmed by the toxins or chemicals produced by the host. So they have this thick cuticle for protection, so that when you digest it, they will remain alive and survive in the environment. This is their adaptation. Again, alimentary canal have one opening only, mouth with no anus. In the other way, you can say these organisms have incomplete gut. They have only opening, but they have no anus. We call incomplete gut or blind gut. Blind gut. Class Cestoda, this is the group member which belong to the class Cestoda, and the example is Taenia. Taenia, this is the generic name, but the common name is tapeworm. This is the common name, tapeworm. Tapeworm. Habitat, where do we find this tapeworm? The adult ones are found in the small intestine of human being. If you have learned something, is for the life of these parasites, you find that in some stages of their life, they can occur in certain environment, but in some stages also found in another environment. So when they are young, they can live outside, and when they are adult, live inside the host, or the vice versa. That is common to most parasites. So not necessarily find them all the time from the parasite. Maybe sometimes there is no conducive environment for their reproduction to happen when they are inside the host. So they have to produce the eggs, go outside, either to inside another host, or in water, or in an environment. Then the eggs, they will fuse to produce another young. Then the young can be taken to another host. That is the life cycle for most of the parasites. So adults of these are found in the small intestine of human being. Me and you, we are the host of this tidy. They can live in the small intestine. And you know the function of the small intestine. You know the benefit of someone who is living in your small intestine. It means that the small intestine is the place where there is food absorption. After digestion, then you have absorption in the ileum. Before you absorb the food, the organism wants to benefit from the food after digestion. So before absorbing, they have to suck, they have to eat first before they allow you to absorb. And sometimes they can even prevent absorption into your body by producing the mucus that will cover the microbiome in the ileum to make sure that the food remains in the gut, in the ileum, without being absorbed in the intestine, in the body of the living organism. That is why when you have many of these in your small intestine, I think they can cause a lot of problems, including malnutrition, because you lack the food which can circulate in the body. They remain for them. They have to eat first before you eat. Tapeworm, this is the structure, and as we said, they are elongated with segments. These are segments, or we call proglottids. And we said proglottids, they can sometimes break off. They break off. Of course, they break off and they come out through the feces of human being. This is the head region of the tapeworm to show clearly the hoops, something that attach to the small intestine of human being. Scolex, we can say head. The head have these suckers and they have hoops for fixing. They attach to the intestine in our gut and belong to the class Cestoda. And we are done with the phylum Platyhelminthes, which covered the three classes. The class, just now after discussing the three classes under the phylum Platyhelminthes, these are the advantages of Platyhelminthes. What are the advantages we get from these animals? Some members of Platyhelminthes are used in medical research and research studies. We use them in our different researches and the medical researches. We develop medicine for curing this one, because if you feel pain, you feel like something abnormal in your gut, you go to the hospital and someone have did medical research and can give treatment for this. Advantages these are disadvantages of Platyhelminthes. Liver flock are endoparasites of animals such as cow and goats. They live in bile ducts of these animals and damage their liver. This is one of the disadvantages. As liver flocks, we learned this organism belong to the class Trematoda. So this one can be one of the organisms which kill our cattle, because they live in the liver and damage the liver. Many adult tiniest fish in the intestine, this is step 1, in the intestine of human being cause a disease called tyniasis. Tyniasis, this is a common disease which is caused by tapeworm which lives in our intestine. And the symptoms of this tyniasis is abdominal pain, and we have diarrhea, indigestion and vomiting. Again, we have constipation and the loss of appetite. Abdominal pain is common, diarrhea, indigestion and vomiting, constipation and the loss of appetite. These are the symptoms that will make you realize that you have this kind of worms, tapeworm. These are the disadvantages of Platyhelminthes. After discussing the phylum Platyhelminthes and the 3 classes under the same phylum, now let us shift to the second one, the second phylum called Ascalminthes. A common name for this we call roundworm. Distinct features of this, they have round and segmented and elongated bodies pointed at both ends. This differentiated them from the previous one. The previous one was long but segmented body. We learned about proglottids, but for this one, they are cylindrical in their shape. They are unsegmented, don't have segment, and they will see the image of this. They are triploblastic and pseudocoelomate. Triploblastic, as we said before, this is a 3-layered body. When you dissect them, you will see the 3 layers: the outer layer, the middle layer, and the inner layer. The mesoderm, the epiderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. Together we call triploblastic, but they are pseudocoelomate. They have a quite of coelom, but not very well developed. It is less developed, that is we call false coelomate, pseudocoelomate. They are quite soft compared to the previous group. You know, it is like a hierarchy. The previous was a hard body, which is flat like a tape and don't have circulatory system. But this one, they are more advanced than the previous. They are round and they have a kind of fluid. They have fluid, but not well developed. Compared to the next phylum, which will be phylum Annelida. That one composed a very well developed coelom, have an advanced circulatory system. So this one have intermediate coelom between the Platyhelminthes and Annelid. They are intermediate. Alimentary canal has mouth and anus. In other way, you can say for this group have a full developed or complete gut. As we said, when moving from the Platyhelminthes to the other phylums, it means even advancement or complexity of the organisms increase. This one have complete gut. The body is covered with a thick elastic cuticle. Thick elastic cuticle. This is the same principles we discussed from the previous slides, that thick cuticle enable them to adapt in harsh environment, in the environment where they cannot survive easily. They live in our bodies also. Now, for them to defend, to protect them from the effect of our secretions or enzymes, they have to develop this thick cuticle or thick layer on their body, which makes them to survive easily in our body. They are triploblastic again, and the somates have separate sex. That means the previous one was hermaphrodite. All sexes on the same organism, but for this, you have separate sex. Usually have males and the female, and the females look longer than the males, which are short. No flagella or cilia for their locomotion. They are round, they are still moving in the body. Phylum Ascomynthus, nematoda, roundworm. Group member includes Ascaris lumbricoides. This is the scientific name, but common name we call them roundworm or nematode. Roundworm because they have a cylindrical body compared to the previous one, which was a flattened body, and we call them flatworms. But for this is roundworm because of the look-up or shape of their body. Again, we have Utilaria bancrofti. This is the filaria worms, common name, filaria worms. Filaria worms, this infect human lymphatic system, causing elephantiasis or filariasis. Elephantiasis, swelling of the legs or some parts of the body. It can be breast or legs or scrotum for males. They can be swelling because of the blockage or damage of the lymphatic system, whereby the lymph system, the fluids of the body, will have no channels to pass in the body. Then they accumulate in any part of the body which can allow them to accumulate. It can be a scrotum, can be a breast, or can be legs. That is the swelling. And this one, I think, cannot be treated because it is totally blockage of the lymphatic system after a long time exposure to this kind of worms. Habitat, roundworms are found in oceans, fresh water, and soil. But if we go particularly to this nematode or Ascaris, which is very common in this phylum Ascomynthus, this is the shape of the female and this is the male. The side male looks short and the female looks longer. They have arms, they have etc. pore, mouth, female genital aperture, and the lateral line the same to this one. And we have male and female. They reproduce by sexual reproduction. As we said, animals reproduce sexual. And this one, during copulation, they coil each other. The female, because it is long, will tend to coil on the male for copulation. And this next picture is a life cycle of this organism, Ascaris or nematode. We ingest them from water, because we said this organism can live in fresh water. We ingest them through drinking untreated water, the water which is not safe, not boiled. Then they develop, they fuse, the eggs will fuse to develop into the adult, it's the juvenile. The juvenile will grow inside the adult human being, will grow, will have male and female, they will mate and produce the eggs. The eggs will come out in pieces, and then can spread in the soil, in the water, or somewhere else, and then we can drink them or insert them in through water. You can get them, and then when they go in your body, the eggs can fuse, can mate, and develop into the adult. Repeat the same. That is over about the phylum Ascomynthus, but these are the disadvantages of the Ascomynthus. It means they are no longer advantageous. Maybe in studies like this, but generally this one are harmful. As I said, the first two phylum, Platyrmynthus and Ascomynthus, they are mostly parasite. They are more disadvantageous than advantageous to us. This one, they are disadvantageous in this way. Roundworms, nematode, are human endoparasites. They live in our body, in our gut, in our systems, and they sometimes cause obstruction in the gut. They sometimes cause obstruction in the gut. The feeding habit of the parasite tends to weaken the host, and they make it more likely or easily attacked by other parasites. Remember, they are living in the gut, obtaining the same food we depend on. And if you know the principle of a parasite, the organism which don't have digestive system, so they depend on us for taking food, digesting it, and for them is only to absorb the already digested food. So if you have many of them, they absorb all of the food and you remain with nothing or obtain a little of the large amount of food eaten. And then it can weaken our body because lack of nutrients will affect the functioning of the body, will make the cell in short of supply of the required materials for manufacturing important chemicals, important materials in the body for defense. The disease is currently common. The second disadvantage, Tularemia bancrofti, filarial worms, infect the human lymphatic system, causing elephantiasis. Elephantiasis, as we said, is swelling of some parts of the body. And this disease is currently common in Zanzibar and the coastal region of Tanzania mainland. They are there because the organisms which are spreading these organisms, which is the small flies which carry these kind of worms and bite human, they are found in this region, the coastal region of Tanzania mainland and some in Zanzibar. These are the regions where we find this disease, elephantiasis. But it is not a big case because we don't have many numbers of the infected people. Again, the third and the last phylum for today, phylum Annelida, have the following features. The organisms belonging to this phylum have perfect metameric segmentation. Again here, they have long body, but here they are segmented. Perfect metameric segmentation. They possess chaeta. We shall see all these features, how they appear on their body. They possess chaeta. These are the protrudings, like swellings on the ventral part of the body, which act like legs. They enable them for moving. You know, here we're talking about the worms, like earthworm. Earthworm, they can move, but you have to grip on the soils when moving. The structure which enables them for gripping on the soils is this chaeta. So I can call them leg-like structures. Again, they have hydroskeleton, no bones in these organisms. They have hydroskeleton. And hydro, remember I said, on the phylum Paternomyces, we say they have we have acylomate. They don't have fluid. On Ascomyces have pseudocylomate, meaning that the fluid is there but not well developed. But here, the fluid is well developed. The body is full of fluids. That is why we call triploblastic and coelomate. And that is why the same coelom, the same fluid, is acting as a hydroskeleton. They are triploblastic and coelomate, have cuticle as outer covering. The same cuticle for protection. Remember, this organism have to move through the soils, and to reduce friction or to reduce their injury, they are covered by this hardy cuticle for them to survive well in their environment. Have a complete gut with a mouth and anus. Again, this one have complete gut compared to the one in Platyomyces, which had incomplete gut. Have chaeta. This is a hair-like structure arranged segmentally to assist locomotion, except leech. Leech don't have this kind of chaeta. I say this is the structures which enable them to move. Odocita, this is the class under phylum Annelida, the only class Odocita. And it's because the organism we say have chaeta. Chaeta is the structure for locomotion, and even the class we call Odocita. Ogopta have these distinctive features. No distinct head. Sometimes you can confuse where is the head and where is the tail. It is a worm, but sometimes the head is not protruded like this one, not roundish like our head region or most of the organism. The head is differentiated from other body parts. But for this case, the head is not well differentiated. You can be confused about where they start and where they end, or where the fore part or hind part of the organism. Have few characters that occur in pair or single. Again, have crotella or saddle, which secrete cocoon in which eggs are deposited. This is like an ovary in human being. This is particularly for reproduction, and it secretes the eggs before being fertilized by a male. A group member is Lumbricus fish. This is the generic name, but common name is earthworm, and I think everyone is familiar of this earthworm because we see them on the environment, particularly, especially in the moist environment. Habitat lives in most soils rich in organic matter. If you play with most soils, most environment, you will find these worms, and for those who are fishing, they can use this as a bait. So it is sometimes important to us as they can be used as a bait in fishing industry. This is the picture of earthworm, and this is the crotellum I was talking about. Here it is labeled crotellum, the structure for hatching eggs, and this one is for reproduction. This is the earthworm, and these are protruding structures, which I said chiaita, which is the important structures for locomotion, for gripping through the soil. This is the anus, and this is the mouth region, the head region, or we call clostomium or mouth. These are the perfect metameric segmentation. These are the one which was talking in the distinctive features of this class. And this, I believe, everyone have interacted with this one. Advantage of earthworm. These worms, as compared to the Platyhelminthes and Ascalminthes, I think earthworm is important to us, not harmful at all. They are beneficial to us compared to the other previous two groups, which was parasite. But for this is very beneficial to us, especially in agriculture. And as I mentioned, in fishing industry, can be used as a bait. They increase the depth of the topsoil by burrowing into subsoil and bringing it to the surface. These worms live in the soils, and they are ant-like. They tend to hide themselves. When light increases, they burrow underground. And when burrowing, they can't penetrate through the soil. If the soil is penetratable, they can pass by penetrating, but if impenetrable, they can swallow the soil, and the soil will come out through the anus. And therefore, this burrowing, it tends to bring the bottom soil to the top, therefore increasing the depth of the soil. It's like they are cultivating, they are digging the soil. Their burrows improve soil aeration. Aeration, ability of the soil to allow circulation of air in the soil. And this is important for plants to get air for gaseous exchange. That is why I say this one is important for agriculture, because compact soil will inhibit circulation of air and water, but the presence of earthworm will make the soil more productive because we will have channels, the pathways of the earthworm, where water can pass and air can pass, and allow the roots of the plant to benefit from the circulating water and the oxygen. Again, the urine and the feces, as well as their dead bodies, promote the formation of humus, increasing soil fertility. They die in the soil, they produce feces and the urines. All of these are added in the soil and increase soil fertility for growth of our crops. The constant passage of the soil through the gut reduces particles to fine state of division As I said, they tend to consume the soil and they allow it to come out through the anus. Therefore, by doing that, it reduces the size of the soil from large particle size into small state, which is better for crop production. That is about the advantages of the earthworm and the phylum Annelida. This is the third phylum among the three phylums I said. And here, next slide, I want to reflect on what have been learned today. What you have learned. Today we covered the topic Kingdom Animalia, and we have discussed the three phylums. The phylum Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, and Annelid. And under the phylum Platyhelminthes, we have discussed about the three classes under Platyhelminthes. And the class is Tubulalia, and the representative member, which you have displayed the picture, is Planalia. And for Trematoda, we displayed the picture of liver fluid, which is a group member. And class Cestoda, we discussed about tapeworm, which is the common one, group member of the Cestoda. So keep in mind this phylum and the three classes and the representative member of each class. Again, we did this as Aschelminthes, which have this representative member, roundworm, would not mention the class under this. It is on the class, the phylum, and the representative member, which is Ascaris, or nematode, or roundworm. These are common names. Again, we discussed the last phylum, which is Annelida, and the class Oligoptera, the only class under this phylum for your level, Form 4 level, and the group member is earthworm, which we have discussed it in the previous slide. This is what I've covered it, and I can go through these questions to see if you can remember what we have discussed. Can you remember what are the classes under the phylum Platyhelminthes? Just mentioned it in the previous slide. What are the classes under the phylum Platyhelminthes? And mention the features of the phylum Aschelminthes. What are the features which differentiate, distinguish Aschelminthes? Draw a diagram of tapeworm. Do you remember the diagram of tapeworm? How can you draw it well and label the parts on the body of tapeworm? And outline the importance of earthworms in agriculture. What are the importance of earthworms? We discussed this as being very important for our commercial production, for our crop production. Do you remember the importance of earthworm in agriculture? Are you planning to be a farmer where you can benefit from the advantages of earthworm? This is the end of the lesson for today. This is Eteta TV from Montreal. Welcome again.